time for an inexpensive bike review. This time it is the Engwe M20 2.0. And what you're getting is two batteries, two 52 volt batteries. We've got over 30 amp hours of capacity here, which means a lot of range. I bet we could do 50 plus miles just on throttle if we wanted to. But the real kicker here is a claimed 1200 watts, and the bike on sale right now is only about 1200 bucks. I don't know about you, but $1 a watt sounds like a pretty good deal. Not to mention that it has full suspension. The rear shock actually looks like it has some decent adjustment to it. No adjustment whatsoever on the front fork, so we'll just have to see how that one performs. I have not ridden the bike at all, so I have no idea how it handles. I'm gonna start. I've got a full charge on both batteries, so let's see if it can put down the 1200 watts as advertised, see how it compares to other hub motor bikes on our dyno list. I'll take it off-road a little bit because it does have full suspension. It'd be nice to see if it can handle some trails or not, and overall determine, hey, is this a good deal for 1200 bucks? If the specs on the motor and battery are right, it might be. Let's find out. Blake is always dropping things in the background. On purpose, I think. Let's see how we turn that. We got a switch on each battery. And then power button on the screen here. It is a little small screen over on the left-hand side, but it is full color. It actually looks pretty nice. I'll get some close-ups of that in a bit. Looks like we got 5 assist levels. I'm gonna turn it up all the way to 5 in case that matters. And let's twist the throttle. They say this is, again, 1200 watts, 28 miles an hour. So, I'm gonna be clear about this, even though I don't sell this bike, that according to California's new e-bike laws, this is not an e-bike. It is too powerful and it is too fast. Leave me a comment below as to what you think we should call things that look like electric bikes, act like electric bikes, have pedals like electric bikes, but are not legally electric bikes. There's gotta be some other term or word we can come up with because we're gonna have to differentiate between the legal stuff and the not so legal stuff. All right, dyno run. 3, 2, 1. So right off the bat, I will tell you that the speedometer reads a little bit fast. This maxed out at 30. Actual speed was about 28, which is the claimed top speed. I'll try and confirm that outside, but let's see if we got 1200 watts. I think it's gonna be really close. And yeah, 1090 watts. So not the 1200 claimed. Maybe it's not delivering full current because, you know, with the two batteries, we got plenty of battery capacity to do it, and we got the voltage. So it must be a little light on amps. But 1090 watts, 30.49, basically 30.5 pound-feet of torque. That's decent. That should get me up all the hills around here, even just on throttle. And with the two batteries, I won't have to worry about range either. M20 2.0. Let's see how that compares to other similar bikes. To try and simplify things on the dyno chart, I have reorganized it a little bit lately. Most of the bikes I have are hub motors. We got a lot of hub motors, but I have changed it a little bit. So we have dual hub motors on a separate list and mid drives on a separate list. So all of these bikes are hub motors, 1090 watts. It looks like it's gonna fit right here. Look at that, same exact wattage as the electric one, slightly, ever so slightly less torque. It's not quite the 1200 watts advertised. A lot of these other bikes, like the electric one, this is advertised as 750 watts. This is where you really just do have to pay attention to marketing claims on bikes. This one's claimed to be 1200, this one's claimed to be 750, and they're virtually identical. I see this all the time. It's comfortable to stand up on. Throttle is definitely tied to the assist level. I'm going a whopping 6 miles an hour on pedal assist 1. It's not too bad to pedal. We do have just one fixed seat positions. I wonder if the truck is making a delivery for us. We are waiting on a shipment today. I think somebody's getting their 79 bike in today. All right, so now we're on Assist 5, giving us full power on throttle. Has a little bit of a slow start, but over 30 pound-feet of torque should be enough to, again, zip up over the hills without too much trouble. Got a nice, real steep hill close to the shop here that I always like to test out the bikes on, just to feel it out and make sure it can hold those torque numbers and power numbers. And it's got this stop sign right at the bottom, so it makes it a nice, difficult one. No pedaling, just throttle. So according to the display, remember that it's not 10% fast, but it's a little fast. It says 11, slowing down 10, 9. Looks like 9 miles an hour up a real steep hill. What kind of brakes are these? These are a generic hydraulic brake. I've seen these on other bikes. They're basically a clone of Shimano 365 brakes. They feel like they're stopping really nice, even though I haven't even like broken in the pads yet. So I'd say we're off to a pretty good start. Decent braking, decent power. The street right here has a lot of potholes, so this is going to be my first impressions of the suspension. And surprisingly smooth. A little bit of a bounce there, but like not uncomfortable. So I am actually pretty impressed by the suspension. Impressed enough that what I want to do is go modify my camera mount a little bit here so I can do a little more off-road with this than I thought I would. Look, a bike. Top speed supposedly 28. I mean, it kind of does it. So it says 28 right now, maybe 29, but the speedometer's a little fast. Definitely when you hit 30, there is no more RPM left, but it does seem like I can keep it right at 30. So I'm gonna say their 28 mile an hour advertising is accurate. Just barely, but it does actually do it. Just be aware that if you're riding the bike, it says 30, 28 is the realistic number you've actually got. So it's a geared rear hub motor. It's definitely got a little bit of a motor noise, a bit of a whine to it. Nothing super abnormal, but maybe slightly louder than it needs to be. A little more grease could probably quiet it down. So overall, the ride is more comfortable than I thought it was gonna be. The rear suspension just works better than I expected. Until I get off-road, I won't really have a good opinion on the front suspension. The saddle is a little bit hard. And for moped-style bikes, it's fairly short. Some have a bit more length, so you can kind of scoot forwards and backwards, get yourself into a good pedaling position. This one, you don't really have that. No major clunky rattles. That is a surprise. So many bikes I've been riding lately have had these just rattly, clunky noises anytime you hit bumps. I think the Velotric Summit was an exception. That was totally quiet. Everything was buttoned down nice and tight. There's another steep hill I'm just gonna throttle up and over. So this is a cadence sensor, which are overall known to be a little jumpy compared to a torque sensor. If I put it on 1, the pedal assist is so light that it is not jumpy at all. Like, not in the least bit. It just doesn't give you enough power to lurch forward. If I turn it up to 2, then that's kind of enough power to lightly pedal along at like 10 miles an hour. So this would be good for, say, like a walking path with a lot of people on it. And then if I bump it up to 3, now we get a decent amount of power. That's feeling like we're getting close to the 700, 750 watt number. And then we're doing like 15 miles an hour plus. I'm gonna stop for a second. So I'm 5'10", and if I stop, I can put my feet totally flat on the ground, slight bend in my knee. You're 6 foot and above, you're probably gonna find this thing to be a bit cramped. Some roots. That'll help test out that front shock a tiny bit. Ooh, that was a pretty big drop. So it took it at my weight of 150 plus pounds. It did not bottom out. That was like almost a foot drop. I got no throttle all of a sudden. I think one of my brake switches just hung up for a second. All good. All right, let's see if we can handle this bump going back up. Yep. Not a problem. And I'm only on assist 3. I'm not even using all the power. Bump it up to 4. I don't think that changed the torque at all. I think it's just changing the top speed. Quick tip for you on any e-bike. If you ever have the motor cut out, but there's no error messages or anything on your display, but both the motor and the pedal assist don't work, most likely it's one of your brake switches, and you can just unplug them and your bike will work. Obviously not the ideal situation if you want your brake switches working, but it'll get you out of a pinch and back home or to a shop where you can have it fixed properly. All right, so here's a lot of rocks. I felt a little clunk in the front shock there. But overall, not really that bad. So far, the display is nice and clear and vibrant, whether it's in sun or not. So I'm liking the display setup. Oh, it does have a horn button. Oh, that is weird. So it has like a little beeper, but like you would expect the horn noise to come from the front because that's where they always are. But if I press this, it sounds like it's coming from behind me. So I don't know where the horn is mounted. I'm gonna have to look for it, but it's either next to the motor controller, which is under the seat, or it's like near the taillight. So that is a little unusual. I guess it won't matter to somebody you honk at, really, but it just feels weird when you press it. Feels like somebody's honking at me. I think these fire roads are a perfect use for a bike like this. Little bridge crossing. Occasional bump. One more nice little shortcut across the street here to get us closer to the shop without having to take roads. Yeah, I'm liking the maneuverability of this bike. Feels very easy to just point it where I want to go. Mud. Ew. Whoa. I almost lost it in that mud right there. Well, that went surprisingly well. You know, I just wasn't expecting good off-road capability. And again, this is not gonna be my top choice if I'm looking to go mountain biking. But if you just want something to cruise around on, like I said, around town, but you wanna hit some trails for fun and just kind of have fun with that, it looks like it can do some moderate stuff like that. The one exception being, you know, if your weight range is outside of what this fork is made for. So if you're on the very light side, you know, 100 pounds, you know, it might feel a little stiff, but it's not gonna be terrible. But I would say if you're in the 2 to 250 range, this fork is probably gonna be too soft and risk bottoming out on some of that stuff I was just hitting. Now I'm curious, where is? Yeah, the horn is coming from underneath the seat. That is weird. So rear shock felt surprisingly nice. Looks like we do have an air adjustment there. That's surprising for something at this price. And then you have the collar that can be adjusted right here. No adjustment whatsoever on this front suspension fork. And the fork looks, you know, pretty inexpensive. So don't expect much from this. It did okay at my weight and just some light trail riding. These hydraulic brakes were actually working pretty well. Looks like 180 millimeter rotors. It's got those both front and rear. 2-piston, just standard hydraulic brakes. Nothing too fancy, but they worked just fine. I mean, it's not a bad looking bike frame-wise and everything. Saddle, maybe a little bit firm, but wasn't uncomfortable throughout all the riding I just did. And I was seated off-road a fair amount as well. So even though it felt a little firm at first, it actually surprisingly was not uncomfortable. It's a little short compared to other bikes in this category. Sometimes the seat goes from here all the way to here. You got like 3 more inches there. Sometimes they even go back further or come forward further. So you have more room to scooch forward and back and get a better pedaling position. But are you really gonna pedal this? It's just not a bike that's designed for that. It's a cadence sensor. It's got a throttle. It's got 2 batteries. Let's face it, this is not gonna be your first choice of bike if you really want a ton of exercise. It's just not. And that's okay. Very interesting light setup. Dual headlights. Just turns either both on or both off. If they're both off, you kind of have a running ring light around them. Hopefully this display shows up on camera. Sometimes they don't because of the refresh rate or the frame rate, but it looks really nice. It's super clear. Even if I put it in direct sun, I can 100% see everything I need to see. Maybe it's a little on the small side for some people's vision, but the miles per hour is very clear and easy to read. The mileage odometer is pretty small on the bottom there. Pretty standard 7-speed thumb shifter here. Entry-level Shimano tourney derailleur. Entry-level 7-speed freewheel. You know, mag wheels. I've shared my opinion on the mag wheels before with people. Plus side, I've never seen one break. Downside, they're heavier than spoked wheels. That's the short version of that. Got an on-off switch for each battery. 2 chargers, which really is nice because if you plug both of them in, you're charging twice as fast. So overall, I would say the bike is better than I expected. I think for the price, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you don't care about pedaling exercise, you don't care about torque sensor versus cadence sensor, you just want affordable range and something reasonably small, I think this is actually a pretty cool little bike. If there was one thing I would change, it'd be to have some adjustment on the fork. At the very least, a compression adjustment so it could be adjusted to different rider weights. And that's really about it. The fenders didn't rattle, the rear shock felt great, the dual battery setup's nice, and I really didn't have any problems with it. I mean, I mentioned that one of the brake switches was sticking, but all you have to do is loosen this little set screw right here and adjust this. And I can do that real quick in the shop here in a minute. So I'll get that working the way it's supposed to be. That's nothing at all to worry about. So I'm surprised, I guess. I just, you know, based on the price and how much battery you're getting, it just seemed like it's almost like too good to be true. Now, of course, there is one spec that was slightly too good to be true. You know, I showed that at the beginning, which is the 1200 watt peak power output. I didn't quite get 1200 watts, and it's really comparable to other bikes that advertise at 750. So, you know, just be aware that what you're getting is not really what I would call 1200 watts. It's close, but it's not quite there. So, to my surprise, pretty good bike overall. Meets most of the advertised specs, really does do 28 miles an hour. Again, this is not, if you're in California, a legal class 1, 2, or 3 e-bike. This does go slightly over the speed limit, has slightly too much power. It's not going to qualify for any of the rebate programs or anything. But overall, I do think it is a good bike. Not going to call it an electric bike, but it's a good bike that happens to have pedals and a motor. So thanks to Engwe for sending this bike out to me and letting me check it out. I will put a link to their website in the description if you're interested in picking one of these up.